Welcome back to our YouTube channel, GossipWire. What if I told you that one moment, just one, could destroy years of love, loyalty, and trust on live TV? Tonight, the truth hits harder than ever. And by the end, you won't believe who's been hiding in the shadows all along, because something just exploded in the most unexpected manner. Rumors have long accompanied Kirk and Rasheeda. Cheating scandals, covert children, you name it. No one saw this coming though. During a meeting that was supposed to be about healing and moving on, Karlie stunned everyone when she dropped a bomb that left the entire cast stunned. We're talking jaws dropped, producers scrambling, cameras rolling, and Rasheeda just couldn't take it. She stood up, tears running down her cheeks, and went away, leaving Kirk astonished and silent. Fans are going crazy online, guessing about what happened behind the scenes. Is this a setup? Did Karlie really had enough? Or is this just another twist in the ongoing Frost family drama? Nothing will ever be the same again. Grab your food because what you're about to hear could never see this couple the same way again. Karlie Redd has always been a hurricane in stilettos. But no one could have predicted the whirlwind she would cause during Rasheeda and Kirk's anniversary celebration. What started as the magnificent night turned into a battleground of truths, falsehoods, and tears. Cameras were rolling, beers were flowing, and the drama was simmering just beneath the surface, waiting for the spark. It began when Karlie walked in fashionably late, dressed in the blood-crimson gown turned every head in the room. She did not provide a smile. She did not wave. She calmly swept the throng until her gaze fell on Kirk. And that was when the tension began to crackle. Rasheeda also observed it. For a split second, my smile faded. It was understated, but it was there. Throughout, Karlie moved around the party like a ghost from the past, mingling politely with people but never straying far from Kirk. Rasheeda tried to remain collected, passing everything off as if it were old drama, resurrecting for no apparent cause. She sensed it, though something was wrong. Everything changed when Kirk raised his glass to toast Rasheeda. His voice trembled, not with feeling, but with something heavier, namely anxiousness. Before he could even finish his speech, Karlie cut in from the crowd with a harsh, "You going to toast to your wife with that dirty conscience, Kirk?" The room fell silent. Kirk went completely still. Rasheeda blinks, perplexed. The guests looked about, unsure if this was a terrible joke or a real event being revealed. On camera, Karlie would not stop. She moved forward to the front as if she owned Thepler. "Do you believe you can play this game indefinitely? Act as if you are loyal. Husband, when we both know what skeletons you've been keeping hidden." Her voice was steady, but charged like a match and dragged acre sandpaper. Kirk sputtered, "Karlie, this is not the time." But she wouldn't have it. It's always the moment when women like Rasheeda are misled too. Rasheeda stood transfixed, trapped between disbelief and a rising understanding. Her gaze sought Kirk's face for answers, but he appeared to be watching his past catch up with him in real. Then came the shocking revelation. "You remember Charlene?" Karlie inquired, her gaze fixed on Kirk. "Of course you do. Because that short business trip, you weren't in Atlanta. You were with her in Vegas 2 years ago. I have proof." The audience gasped aloud. Phones were already recording. This wasn't all drama. This was explosive. Rasheeda muttered, "Charlene, what's she talking about?" Kirk attempted to respond, but words deserted him. Sweat accumulated on his brow. The man who had spent years avoiding scandals was suddenly cornered, exposed, and powerless. Karlie pulled out her phone. "This is a picture of Kirk and Charlene holding hands at the Caesars Palace lobby. This isn't Photoshop, it's date and time stamped." Rasheeda gazed at her, breath caught in her throat as she gazed at the television. The quiet between her and Kirk was louder than any dispute. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. She refused to let them fall. "Not yet," Karlie explained. "And before you accuse me of lying, consider this. I used to be friends with Charlene. She discovered what type of man Kirk truly is. She told me absolutely everything." Kirk finally, he found his voice. "This is old information. It was meaningless. However, that was the worst thing he could have said." Rasheeda took a photo. "Old it is news, hence true." He paused. "That is not what I said, you simply did." Rasheeda responded, her voice cracking. Karlie shook her head. "For years, he has been gaslighting you. I tried to be silent, I honestly did, but witnessing you stand beside him and smiling like everything is lovely, it made me sick." The room had been divided into two camps. Those who gazed in stunned stillness, who murmured speculations about how far Kirk's deception could go. Mimi walked in unexpectedly. She hadn't been invited. No one anticipated her. But she stood there with her arms crossed and her lips pulled into a tight line. "Karlie's not lying," Mimi stated. Rasheeda looked at her, dazed. "What? I saw Kirk in Vegas, too. Not with Charlene, but with someone else who has blonde hair and tattoos. I believed it was business, but now I'm not so sure." Kirk appeared to have been hit by a train. "You were supposed to be at a conference," Rasheeda said. Kirk rubbed his face, the weight of all his secrets finally catching up with him. "I did not wish to harm you. But you did," she said, stepping back from him. Karlie's eyes softened a little. "Rasheeda, you deserve better than this. You've always deserved more." Rasheeda eventually shed tears. The years of defending Kirk, dismissing the allegations, and telling she was picturing things. Everything came crashing down at once. She switched her attention to the guests. "I need to take a minute." However, before she could walk away, Kirk attempted to grab her hand. "Please." She yanks her arm back. "Don't." The cameras continued to roll. Every eye was glued. This wasn't all drama, it was time to face the consequences. And now for the worst part. This was just the beginning. It all began on a calm afternoon, when the cameras were rolling for what was meant to be a routine catch-up between Karlie and Spices. The atmosphere was informal. Laughter permeated the air. But something Karlie's energy seemed different. She continued squirming and looking about as if she was contemplating whether or not to say something. Spice immediately spotted it. She leaned forwards, her voice low. "Girl, what is on your mind right now?" Suddenly, the floodgates opened. Karlie's voice quivered initially, but she seemed unable to stop talking once she started. "I wasn't going to say anything," she said, her hands anxiously fiddling with her shirt hem, "but I can't keep it in anymore. Kirk's been hiding something really black." Spick's eyes widened, her hand immediately flying into her mouth. "What are you talking about? What sort of something?" Karlie gazed right into the camera. "He has been lying to Rasheeda for many years. And it's more than simply cheating. It's deeper. It's a family issue." The air in the room altered in an instant. You could barely hear a pin drop. Spice was astonished. "You're not saying what I think you're saying," she said softly. "I'm saying Kirk has a whole other." Karlie responded, her voice husky with passion, a situation that Rasheeda is unaware of. The word spread like there's a wildfire going on behind the scenes. The production team began murmuring. Assistant Sit froze in place. Mimi, who was filming her own portion in another room, learned of the situation. She stormed in, eyes blazing. "What's going on? Someone should tell me. Right now." Karlie paused, but Spice immediately filled her in. Mimi didn't flinch. "I knew something was wrong with him. Constantly sneaky. Constantly pretending innocence." She turned to look at Karlie. "How do you know all this?" Karlie taken a big breath. "I saw authentic documents and spoke with someone who is close to Kirk." That is when the pieces started falling into place. Apparently, Kirk had been funneling money into a separate account, one unrelated to any of his known business or household expenses. The funds were redirected periodically, and the quantities were not little. When asked, Kirk usually dismissed it as business initiatives. However, Karlie has recently confirmed the account is linked to a woman in Florida. And not just any woman, but one Kirk knew long before meeting Rasheeda. They apparently had a child together. Fans were stunned. Social media erupted. Tweets, comments, and videos poured in. People were seeking explanations. Rasheeda kept quiet at first. The tension was terrible after they returned on set. Everyone was on edge, unsure of what to expect next. Spice attempted to calm Karlie, who appeared rattled by her own disclosures. "You didn't ask for this," Spice gently remarked. "You're just telling the truth." But not everyone saw it that way. Sierra arrived minutes later, having heard bits and pieces. "So, you're just dropping bombs now?" She questioned Karlie, crossing her arms. "You realize this could destroy—" Karlie stood her ground. "They should know. Rasheeda deserved to be aware." Her voice cracked as she said, but her gaze remained firm. "I couldn't keep pretending." Days. The entire room froze. Spice approached and softly took her hand. "You need to hear something," she whispered quietly. They seated Rasheeda down with the cameras still rolling. Karlie, now extremely distraught, restated all she had spoken. Previously, she did not hold Rasheeda didn't say anything, even when her voice broke halfway through, and instead listened. Rasheeda muttered, I knew something wasn't right. When Karlie had finished. Right. I sensed it. Her voice cracked, and she covered her mouth, attempting to keep back tears. He always had an excuse, always gone, always dodging, but Aishi couldn't have foreseen this. And she burst into tears, at that same time uncontrollable. She buried her face in her hands. And the room went silent. Spice threw her arms around her as the cameras panned away for a second to give her room. You don't deserve this, she said. No woman does. Sierra, despite her previous reservations, she stepped up and joined the embrace. We got you, she whispered, her voice steady. No matter what happens next, you are not alone. Karlie stood to the side, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't intend for it to come out like this. Rasheeda raised her head, her mascara streaked, her voice shaky. You did what you had to do. Thank you for not allowing me to continue living in a falsehood. And just like that, the whole mood changed. And what had started as a simple filming day had transformed into a full-fledged, emotional confrontation. The women stood together, not only in friendship, but also in truth. The truth had cracked the knot. Only did it provide the groundwork for Kirk and Rasheeda's marriage, but it also created an unforeseen kinship among the ensemble. When they felt the drama had reached its pinnacle, something unexpected happened. Mimi received a text from someone who claimed to have additional information regarding Kirk's secret life. She didn't say anything. She just stared up at the others. Everyone observed her pale complexion, and the phone remained in her hand. What is it? Sierra inquired, and Mimi's voice was barely audible. You're not going to believe it. When Rasheeda heard those words from Kirk's mouth, the color her face was exhausted, and the longer she remained silent, the more madness raged inside her. It just took a moment for tears to pour. She wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Kirk stood motionless in front of her, like a man who has accepted his penance. The silence inside the home felt like the eye of a tornado. Rasheeda spoke only one word as she composed herself. Why? Kirk stared at her, but his eyes had no answer. I believed I was protecting you, he muttered gently. I didn't want you to go through that darkness. Rasheeda let out. You weren't protecting me. Instead, you kept me in the dark. And now that I've stepped into the light, everything is on fire. Just then, Bambi appeared. She had already witnessed all of the drama play on social media. She hugged Rasheeda firmly and added, You're strong, and I'm here for you. But there was also a weird strain on Bambi's face, as if Kirk remarked to Bambi, You should have told her first. Bambi discreetly shook her head, but that simple action set a complete narrative. Rasheeda stared at them both and inquired, So you both knew all along? Kirk lowered his head in shame, and Bambi, with tears in her eyes, said, I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid it would shatter you. Rasheeda's voice raised in rage. So you two decided what I could handle. Am I so weak that I wasn't even permitted to confront the truth? The tension was intense, like gasoline catching fire. The camera team had ceased recording, but the microphones were still on. Kirk replied gently, I think about it every day. And everything came to a halt for a time as Rasheeda glanced. Kirk looked him in the eyes and asked, Now that everything has been said, what do you want? Kirk did not say anything. He simply pulled out an old photo of himself, Rasheeda, and a small girl. I just want my family back, he said, but for Rasheeda, returning was not as simple. Her hands trembled as she stared at the photograph. Her heart was on one side, and on the other. In the midst of this, Karlie entered the room, and she had returned short for a meeting, but things grew even more complicated. When she stepped inside and observed the mood, she thought something awful had happened, so she pulled Bambi. He stepped aside and remarked, You knew this day was coming, right? We kept this secret hidden, but hidden truths always emerge. Bambi replied quietly, Now that it's out, there's no going back. Karlie answered, You think Rasheeda is the only one who has been hurt? I was a part of this lie for years as well. But whatever happens next, I'm not staying on the sidelines. And then suddenly, another twist. Everything has changed. Karlie took out her phone and aired a videotape of Kirk meeting somebody unknown, from a terrible period in his life. This video was given to Karlie anonymously via email. Rasheeda's reaction to the video was as if her entire life had broken in a single minute. There's still more, she said. I thought it was over, but this is just the beginning. Bambi said, Who delivered that recording, and why? Karlie said, Maybe someone else who didn't enjoy hiding the truth, or someone who didn't want to be a part of keeping it from you. Rasheeda kept staring at the screen, as if she were watching her entire life play out frame by frame. Kirk shaded his eyes as he watched the footage. He acted as if he no longer had the right to show himself to anyone. Karlie then dropped another bomb. This is not the sole video. I have gotten 3 additional clips. Each one is attached to your connection, each more explosive than the last. Bambi trembled and inquired. You mean everything? Was Karlie nodded. Recorded. Now it's all coming out. Rasheeda only stated one thing at that time. I can no longer trust anyone. No, not mine, my husband, not my buddy, and now not even myself. It was the deepest cut of them. A woman is losing confidence in herself. And just when everybody thought things couldn't get much worse, the air in the living room became icy chilly. Kirk sat motionless, his head slightly bent as if bracing for the next blow. Rasheeda's lips quivered, not from weakness, but from the sheer force of everything collapsing on her. Karlie would not stop. She stared him square in the eyes and stated it loud enough for every camera, every person in the room, and every fan behind their screens to listen. Inform them of the unit on the south side. Tell Rasheeda about the tiny secret you kept hidden, just like you tried with your other ones. Kirk's jaw clenched. Rasheeda slowly turned, as if time had stopped. The entire room descended into eerie quiet. Even background conversation from producers and crew disappeared in thin air. He remained silent. He didn't dispute it. For Rasheeda, that told it everything. Karlie was alluding to, as the internet would. Kirk apparently rented a completely furnished flat under a business pseudonym for more than a year, which was eventually discovered. What was it for? Who possessed access? No one knew. However, timing couldn't have been more harmful. Rasheeda, who was already standing on fractured emotional ground, felt the floor disappear entirely. She didn't yell. She refrained from crying, not immediately. Instead, she stood motionless, her eyes blank. It was like observing someone's spirit leave their body. Rasheeda pulled off her mic and handed it to the nearest crew member, and then walked out of the room, not a word or a look back. Everyone, including Kirk, stood shocked, but this time, he did not pursue her. Outside, cameras captured her pacing, breathing heavily, and attempting to pulled herself together. Quiet sobbing emerged first, followed by louder breaths. Shet tremblingly leaned against a wall. I can't keep doing this, she said quietly, to herself. And then, in a moment that devastated fans' hearts, she slid down the wall, embracing her knees and letting everything out. Raw, unscripted, and entirely broken. Spice approached me again inside, Karlie visibly torn. Girl, that was too much, she grumbled. You did not have to drop it, wasn't like this. Karlie peered over, her eyes still flaming. She deserved to know the truth. She constantly supported him and gave him the benefit of the doubt. Doubt if I hadn't said anything, he would have kept playing her. Meanwhile, Mimi, who had generally been silent, decided to step in. She stood in front of Kirk, her voice forceful but not loud. You need to go after her, she stated. You don't deserve her. The least you can do is try to explain. But Kirk did not move. She isn't going to believe everything I say right now. Perhaps she should not. That's when the discussion took another turn. With the cameras still filming, Bambi, who had remained mute until now, piped up. The corner of the room. What if I told you that Karlie is not the only one with receipts? Everyone turned their heads. He wasn't in Miami. Gasps rang out around the room. The producers exchanged glances, unsure whether to cut the cameras or let the situation play out. Back in the corridor, a producer softly approached Rasheeda and offered her water, hoping to calm her. Do you want to stop filming? He inquired kindly. Rasheeda rubbed her eyes and shook her head. No, she said firmly. I want to finish this, and they need to see me take charge of my tale. She returned to the room, her steps heavy but purposeful. Kirk looked up as she entered. His face was a mix of remorse and grief. Everyone stepped aside, as if they knew this was her time, so she began with a quiet but steady voice. For how long? Kirk paused. A year, possibly a little more. Were you in love with her? No, he said quickly. It wasn't that way. Was it more than one? Silence. That quiet seemed louder than any cry. Rasheeda nodded, tears forming again. This time, I will not fall. I gave you my youth, my faith, and my everything. And in a shocking twist, she turned to Karlie. Thank you, she said, surprising everyone by surprise. Thank you for telling me and not keeping me in the dark. Karlie seemed surprised. I wasn't attempting to harm you. I understand, but the truth might sting more when it comes from Rasheeda. Then returned to Kirk and asked one final inquiry. Why didn't you simply tell me? Why wait for the cameras and the drama? He raised his eyes. Because two did not imagine you'd ever depart. Those words landed like a freight train. Fans later, viewers stated that they never expected Kirk to admit it in such a way, to be so forthright and harsh in his honesty. Social media erupted with responses. Hashtags became popular within hours. Rasheeda deserved better. Our Karlie was right. Kirk is exposed. As the episode, Rasheeda left again as the proceedings began to wind down, but this time it's not in tears. She walked out with her head held high and powerful, and ready to rebuild with or without Kirk. Inside, the rest of the cast sat stunned. Spice leaned into Mimi and whispered, "This season has changed everything," and it did. Friendships were tested, alliances altered, secrets turned into weapons. And throughout it all, one lady recovered herself, doubt in the face of public treachery. However, for Kirk, the fallout was only beginning. And with that, everything seems to be spiraling out of control. Karlie's confession did more than just shake the table. It has flipped the entire house upside down. Kirk's reputation is damaged. Rasheeda's world is collapsing. And viewers can't stop wondering what comes next for the Frosts. The air is thick with anxiety. And everyone wonders if Rasheeda will eventually leave away for good. Will Kirk come clean on everything, or continue to play damage control behind the scenes? One thing's clear. Trust has been broken. And nothing will ever be the same again. People close to them have taken sides. The internet is in a frenzy. And even the show's creators were surprised by this revelation. If this is merely at first, we could only imagine what some form of mayhem is waiting around Thickener. We now want to hear from you. Do I think Kirk's secret was much bigger than what has Karlie spilled? Is there any more to this story hasn't come to light? Most essential, should Rasheeda will give him another chance? Or ISIS, this the last straw? Drop your thoughts currently in the comments section. There's no holding back. We are reading each and every one. Don't forget to press the like button if this narrative had you captivated to the screen. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next twist in this fascinating saga. And please share this with your friends. Trust us, they'll want to see this problem is unfolding as well. This is only a beginning. Buckle up because, in reality, the truth has a funny way of finding its and, just when you think you've heard it all, a new piece of evidence surfaces that could turn this entire story upside down. Trust me, the next chapter will leave you speechless. Thank you for watching.